Hey, what's up, Logos Psychology students? Welcome to Friday, May 29th, 2020, day 45 of our COVID-19 stay-at-home e-learning. Happy Friday. We made it through the end of another week. We got one more week after today of term 5, so that's pretty exciting, and this is our last week of May, so when we come back next week, we will be officially in the month of June, which is kind of hard to believe, huh? It's Friday. Yesterday was Thursday, and I apologize for those of you who were unable to get into the Zoom meeting. That was a technical challenge on my end. That's the first time that's happened to me. Of all the Zoom meetings that we've done in all my classes this term, that's the first time that that's happened, and I'm going to make sure it's the last time, because that wasn't cool. I'm sorry for those of you who got up early and were trying to log in and could not get into that meeting. If we go to our Class Blackbaud site, remember you remember you were there. You just weren't able to get into the Zoom meeting, and I'm sorry about that. But we will have a Zoom meeting, the last Zoom meeting of the term, on the second to last day of the term, next Thursday, same time at 9 a.m. So I really hope all of you who tried to get in yesterday can get up and log back in next Thursday at 9 a.m. and I promise I will have all the glitches fixed so we won't have that problem again. But thanks for trying, and just want to make sure that you all know that I gave you credit. You get the participation points for trying, because that was my fault. But that's, again, where your grade's at as far as participation points for the Zoom meeting. Remember, with 1 week left in the term, we want to focus on getting, that final grade for the term as high as possible. Many of you already are doing great, right? Can't really go much higher than an A. But if you don't already have an A, then you got room for improvement, right? And the way to improve your grade is to attend those Zoom meetings, right? Answer the questions of the day, and do the reading assignments. And so we've been doing chapter 3, right? After getting all the way to the end of the textbook for our readings through chapter 20, we moved to chapter 3 last week. And now we finished up chapter 3. That was the chapter that when I asked you guys which chapter in the book you'd like to go back and cover from earlier in the book, that was one of the more popular ones, chapter 3. And remember, these chapters are always under topics. And so we see brain, body, and behavior was the topic that we've been working on, chapter 3. We finished that, and so now we're moving to the next most popular chapter, according to you guys, that you wanted to cover from earlier in the textbook, and that's chapter 11. And this is a really interesting chapter. I'm excited to be starting this, and this will be the last chapter that we cover this term. We'll be covering it next week. And it's about human development. Human development in the textbook is broken down into 3 different chapters. Chapter 10, which is infancy and childhood. Chapter 11, which is adolescence, and chapter 12, which is adulthood. And so, for you guys, probably the most pertinent time of human development to your life is the stage that you're in right now, and that's adolescence. So that's why we are starting chapter 11 today. So if we go into this new topic, human development, we see the reading from chapter 11, the download right there, and if we click on that download, what do we get? We get defining adolescence, right? Adolescence, it's not a set age, right? For most psychologists, most professionals, the experts, they define the start of adolescence as when childhood ends, right? Adolescence begins when childhood ends. Well, when does childhood end? For most people, it's puberty, right? When you make that transition, your mind and your body is no longer the mind and body of a child. It is something different, right? And that usually happens for most people, 11, 12, 13 is when puberty begins. And then, further we define adolescence, we break it down into 3 stages: early adolescence, middle adolescence, and late adolescence. So early adolescence is, puberty, right? When you're actually going through those physical changes, changing from a child to an adolescence. And that's a difficult time, right? For most people. challenging physically, challenging emotionally. You know, when we were in the building at Logos, any of you who had any interactions with the middle schoolers in the building, they're in early adolescence, and you can tell there's something different about early adolescence to where the stage you guys are in, which is either middle adolescence, which is 14 to 17, 14 to 18, or you might be moving into or have already moved into late adolescence, which late adolescence, even though we define legally people as adults when they're 18, scientifically, you're not really, right? When you're in your late teens, early 20s, according to the textbook, according to science, right, you're in late adolescence, right, and you're transitioning into early adulthood, which begins for most people in their early 20s. It's not a set defined age, but that's how we split up, early, middle, and late adolescence. And so this first section that you're reading is going to be talking about early adolescence. And the main part of early adolescence is those physical changes that surround puberty, right? All the different physical changes, the hormones, and then, just the awkwardness, right? The growth spurts, the weight changes, and the psychological issues that can come from that, right? The fact that people don't all mature at the same rate, and so you have early matures and late matures, and that can be, again, we've all gone through this. You guys know that can be very embarrassing, awkward, difficult time for us. So that's what this is getting into. It gets into some problems that some people deal with, weight and dieting. That can happen at any life stage, but it's common in adolescence. Some eating disorders are talked about. And then we get to the last page. It's a 7-page section, and you have your pause for thought questions. And these questions can be found back on Blackbaud under the Assignments tab. If you go to the Assignments tab, we see Chapter 11, page 321 to 327. And there's those 4 pause for thought questions that you can either submit through the Google form or through the online submission. And then, of course, we have, as always, our question of the day. So what is our question of the day for today? Let me see if I can find our question of the day for today. Let's see. I had it before. That's not it. Let's see if we can find it. There it is. That's not it. Maybe it's under a different account. That's a different question of the day from a different day. This is about the changes. There it is, right? Oh, thank you. Thanks, Google. I'm good. Do you think puberty, those physical changes that we all go through, is a more challenging time for boys or girls? Or do you think it's equally challenging for both, but in different ways? How is it different? It's obviously different, right? Again, sexual maturation. Ooh, sex. Sexual maturation is a big part of puberty, right? And boys and girls got different parts, and it works different, right? But it's not just that, right? The reading talks about late matures versus early matures, right? Which can be difficult in different ways depending on boys or girls, comparing themselves to their peers. So that's what the question of the day is. Again, I just want to know what you think. There's no right or wrong answer. Just make sure you submit an answer. Make sure you answer those questions from the reading. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns, let me know. Other than that, have a good weekend. See you Monday. Peace.